Hello, everybody. Dr. F Scott Feil here, and I wanted to give you a quick update on our main sponsor, Ice Shaker. If you're looking for a water bottle, a coffee cup, a protein shaker bottle, I have great news. Your search has ended. Ice Shaker has shaker bottles, tumblers, sports bottles, and the newest addition, and my personal favorite, the gallon and half-gallon jugs. These bad boys are both massive and sturdy and keep drinks cold for hours on end. This has been my answer to making sure I drink enough water throughout my day. I've still kind of come around to the protein game and I'm new at it still, but when my doctor advised me to increase my protein intake, I turned to powdered shakes. Every other shaker bottle on the market had its issues, but Ice Shaker is the only one I tried that was vacuum sealed, had no issues with clumps or smell, and it really kept my drinks the right temperature. I love this product and I love the company and the guys behind it as they are doing amazing things and simply winning. Not only in the world of shaker bottles and sports bottles and tumblers, but in the game of life. Their partnerships and charitable donations have not gone unnoticed by the Professors of Profit Pops crew. So if you want the best beverage consumption and protein shaker solution on the market, check out the link in our show notes to grab yours today. You can even customize them with laser engraving, just like I've got here for our pteducator.com, right? And, I promise you won't be disappointed with these stainless steel products. They're all colors, all sizes. You've got to check them out. Ice Shaker, let's shake things up.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Professors of Profit vlogcast. I'm your host, Dr. F Scott Feil, and I've got with me a good friend and associate, Andrew Woodbury, who is going to talk a little bit today about English as a second language. Andrew, welcome, man. Thanks for coming on and doing this. Thanks for chatting with us about your side gig, teaching English. Tell us a little bit about yourself and, how it led you to where you are today.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for asking me. It's great to be here. So I'm Canadian. I'm from Toronto, and I teach at a community college here in Toronto, or a couple of them actually, which is why it's kind of, I guess I call it a side gig. At least I don't know how laws work in the US, but here, how the college system is kind of set up for teachers is a little bit, I would say, resistant to hiring people on a permanent basis with the full benefits package and things. Like the industry, not just that industry, but most jobs have kind of moved away from that. So on a rolling basis, we can kind of teach a certain amount of time within, 12 months within 24 months kind of thing, and then have to kind of do other things in the meantime. So that's kind of where I classify it as a side gig, where I do some teaching, part-time, and do some other things part-time as well. And I've been teaching for a very long time. That was my first quote unquote career coming out of college myself. And I'm still doing it. I think it's been 14 years now that I've been doing this, and I do love it, but it does need to be augmented a little bit.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little. Like, how did you get started with teaching or teaching English even, as a second language? Like, how did that all come about?
I graduated from university, and I've told this story quite a few times, and I really wanted to study abroad, do a semester abroad during university, and didn't, for a variety of reasons. The main one being I was just nervous. I didn't do it. And then I graduated, and I was kind of like, well, I could just do a life abroad after I graduated without the study part, and that was really attractive to me. So I did like a what's called a TEFL course, a teaching English course to get certified to do it, and I moved to Costa Rica for what I thought would be about a 3 to 6 month period, and ended up being about 4 years. But I started teaching there. My first teaching job, kind of learned on the job how to do it, and then when I moved back to Canada, continued that journey, and that was 8 or 9 years ago now. That I'm still doing it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So I also like the fact that you said, it's a side gig and I do it and all, but it's something that kind of needs to be augmented. So tell us a little bit about, your plan and your lifestyle and how you augment that. What other things are you doing that kind of adds to that side gig?
Yeah, so I say it needs to be augmented just because of how the system works here. It pays really well where I work. That's the honest truth of it. But just because you can't do it on an ongoing basis is the drawback. So it's a yin and yang, right? And in the ESL, or teaching English industry in general, is not a very well paid industry. I'm lucky where I've got the privilege to work that it's not the case, but in a lot of cases, the pay is quite low. So I augment with doing a couple other side gigs to the side gig, I guess you can call it. I work with you where we work, and we do, I do a little bit of sales for an online company, and then I have my own company as well, a startup where we actually help teachers to do specific. So our niche is similar to yours. It sounds like a little bit, where we help teachers themselves. That's our niche, to create a side gig or to create a course and to create, really their own vision for the internet age, and how easy, I shouldn't say easy, but how simple it could be to earn your own money in some capacity away from, a traditional quote unquote job.
Yeah, I love that because, again, we're living in a great time, man. It is a great time to be alive. The opportunities are endless. And like you said, starting a business or an internet thing isn't easy per se, but it can be done. I mean, and
It's the
people need to
easiest it
recognize
has
it.
been, I
Yeah,
think. If you have a specific issue that you help people tackle, if you have a specific problem that we like to use the phrase, what problem do you solve? Like, the word niche is thrown out there a lot, but it's kind of broad and generic. And we like to say, what problem do you solve for the people that you work with? And if you have something that's there, and obviously there's stepping stones, you start small, but so in our company, Learn Your English is the name of it. We help teachers to go from kind of, two sets, I guess. One who works in a traditional school and wants to augment, doesn't want to quit, just like I don't want to quit. I love doing it, but wants to augment and has that, I do it because I'm very passionate about it. And I do love teaching, but I do like entrepreneurship as well. And, or teachers who already are kind of in that lane, but are doing more, one-to-one tutoring and are kind of maxed out. And there's a limit to how much you can do with that. So kind of looking at exploring different business models they can explore to take that where they want to take it.
yeah, I love that because, again, it's very much like healthcare, right? And it's different in that, you guys kind of have national healthcare. We have, it's kind of attached to our job, right? And
Mm-hmm.
our employer kind of covers our healthcare coverage, our insurance. Usually that's kind of most of how it works in the US. But one of the things is, if I'm a physical therapist and I'm treating a patient, whether it's through a company that takes insurance or my own company or whatever, where I'm charging a service for a fee, it's like I can treat that one patient and make $100 for that hour, but I can only see 8 to 10 patients a day, and that's a busy, long day. We have to start thinking about that one-to-many model as opposed to one-to-one. So what are ways that you can reach many people and solve a problem, And I think that's a common theme we see a lot of times when it comes to like doing something you love, doing something you're passionate about, scaling. It's got to go from that one-to-one model to the one-to-many model. So, writing a book, creating a course, group whatever it is you sell, to multiple people at once. That's when it
Right.
becomes a little bit easier, I think. And that's when people start seeing like, oh, yeah, I can use skill sets that I already have and bring it to the masses, as opposed to, just that one-on-one where it's like, I'm trading time for money here to be in that hour or time or whatever it may be.
Exactly. And in education, we see that with teachers. I mean, it does make sense if you're going from a school setting to your own business setting to just transfer the model of, I go to a school, I teach for X amount of hours, I get paid by the hour, and I come home. But the school doesn't charge the students that way. They don't charge them by the hour. So it does make sense. But you're right. And I mean, starting from literally from scratch is daunting, overwhelming. Where do you want to start? What problem do you want to solve? How do you want to work with people? So there's different ways. You can start with the one-to-one model, to, if you've literally never done it before, to kind of learn about the process, learn what people need, what they're looking for, and then later transition into the one-to-many, as you suggested. But there's lots of options. But I think we see a lot of people with indecision and just don't choose one. Just pick one. We like to use the phrase data niche in our program, where it's like you're just going on some dates. You're not getting married to anybody. You're exploring. And if you want to pursue the relationship, you can make that decision later. But you got to go on a few dates in order to even give yourself the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. And implement. I think that's the big thing. You've got to implement. You can read all the business books in the world. I talk about this over and over and over again. But if you're not implementing, you're just not doing. You're not getting any results.
I think totally 100%. In terms of like the side gig, side hustle is like an interesting phrase. I just think how, at least in North America, how employment works. I love teaching. I love work. It's just, but it's not necessarily sustainable to do it as I don't know if we live in a, forget the industry, like if you're an accountant or what, I don't know that we're living in a time where people will have the one job with the benefits and the pension and retire at 60 or 65 or whatever it is. I mean, unless you're working for government, at least here, that still kind of exists. But otherwise, I don't know that that's there. So this other things are so attractive.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like you said, pensions are going away. Those don't really exist much anymore unless it is government. And I personally, this is again for the U.S. based. I personally don't feel comfortable leaving my future and my retirement plan to the government to figure out. Like Social Security we have here, I don't think that'll be around any longer by the time I'm ready to retire. Medicare, which is our coverage for medical coverage for older people 65 and above. Yeah, I just I don't trust in the government to figure it out. I'd rather just take complete ownership of it and figure it out my own way, do it my own way, and be covered for sure, knowing that I did it the way I wanted to.
Right.
If any of that other stuff pans out, great, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
And I don't think it's, as you said, like there's lots of examples to follow, and I think it doesn't have to be like a side gig doesn't have to be something that's cumbersome. Like when you watch Shark Tank or whatever, and there's like, well, if you're not doing it 24/7, you're not serious. Like I don't believe in that stuff. Like
I agree 100%.
You don't have to do. It can be 5 hours a week. It can be 7 hours a week. Something, and then what goals you have for yourself, and then building up to there. But it doesn't have to be something that's super time consuming. It doesn't have to be something that's elaborate. It can be as simple as a landing page and an offer, and away you go.
There you go. There you go. Well, Andrew, what advice would you give to somebody who's looking to maybe start a side gig or figure something out with regards to English as a second language? Like, what are some tips or pointers or tricks you would say?
Decide to decide. I think the reason behind it is powerful, because if you're doing it just because you listened to a podcast and someone said it was a good idea, I mean, you have to want to do it. Right, because while it doesn't have to be super cumbersome, it's not a piece of cake either. You have to dedicate the time, and the cliche of if you love what you do. But when you're starting your own thing and you're kind of in charge of every aspect, I think, my opinion, you got to love it, because otherwise it does become a task. But within that, if you really want to do it, just go for it and just do it, and pick an idea that's very small. And then within that, go even smaller, right? I'm following a guy on, I was gonna say Twitter, but it's X now, I guess. Right. His niche is so specific. He does helps people with email marketing, but he just does welcome sequences. Just welcome sequences. When people like opt into a lead magnet or they join your new or whatever, and that's it. That's his niche. And that's and he's doing really, really well. And I think that's a really cool, very specific example. So it doesn't have to be something very big. So pick something small and then go. If you've never, literally never done it before, just go out and test it. Try and get a few people that to help you run through it and work. There's going to be kinks. There's going to be things that don't work. The sooner you find out that information, the better, because then you can start charging for it, quickly.
Yeah, I love that. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for your time and for coming on to kind of educate us on side gigs in the English as a second language category. Like, where can people reach out to you or find you if they just have follow-up questions or want to see what your side gigs are up to these days?
Yeah, for sure. So our website is learnyourenglish.com. So you can check us out over there. We have at Learn Your English on Instagram as well. Those are the two main places to check out. My email as well, andrew.woodbury@learnyourenglish.com. So any of those would be perfect. Or follow me on LinkedIn. I guess when you have that's the one thing, when a side gig, choose your social media carefully. Don't overwhelm yourself. Choose one. It's not a fact, but that's my opinion. Choose one platform that you want to be consistent with, because doing all of them doesn't work. So I should say my side gig, where there are three of us. So I do LinkedIn and another person does Instagram. We don't each do both. So you can follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow us on Instagram at Learn Your English.
Well, thank you so much. Been an absolute pleasure. And we'll drop those links in the show notes so it's easy for everyone to find. Thank you again so much for your time and for coming on, man. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Anytime.